Hey, everybody. I'm super excited today, coming at you again with another really interesting interview, or at least I think it's really interesting. On today's show, we have Jason Silva. Jason is someone who I've had the pleasure of working with for a little while, gotten to know really well. I think he has a really, really interesting story. Jason's the CEO of a company called ServiceEcho. They're one of the industry leaders in field service management. I'm not going to tell you what field service management is. I'm going to let him describe it properly, and you'll hear it directly from him. But we're going to go into a lot of different things today. Real interesting sort of founder's story, founder's journey, how the company started, sort of ups and downs, where it is now, sort of great successes. Really go into really what is field service management. It's something, I feel like I know a little bit more about from spending some time with them, but man, there's so many facets to this that I had really kind of no idea about. So I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. I hope you guys stick around for all of it. And it is my pleasure, absolutely, now to introduce you to Jason Silva.
Thank you so much, Saul. Really enjoy being here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So we're gonna cover a whole bunch of things in our conversation today. But let's sort of start right from the beginning. Kind of, you're 10 years into a pretty successful company. How did it all start? Where did ServiceEcho sort of come to be, or how did it come to be?
Yeah. So first off, I mean, it's been a blur. I can't believe that it's been 10 years already. I think when you're really focused on a task, and time just flies by, right? And it's something that I'm really privileged to be able to do every single day. So really lucky that way. But it's a long journey, Saul. So I started off. My dad was a lawn irrigation contractor, and ever since I was really young, probably too young to be working from child labor laws perspectives, but he would pull me out, and we would be digging trenches and installing sprinklers. And it really taught me a lot about what it takes to run a business. So it's something that, was ingrained ever since I was very young, but also really made me appreciate school and the work ethic that he had. So ServiceEcho really began, from those initial days. I was working really hard, trying to help out my dad whenever I could. And one of the things that I really struggled with was a lot of the paperwork and the administrative aspect of it. And, even to this day, he would come to me and throw a bunch of pieces of paper at me and ask me to create invoices. And that was always time consuming, and it always took a long time. And I always felt that there was a better way and a better opportunity to do it. And that's how ServiceEcho was born.
So that's really interesting. So you and I have a very similar background. I grew up in a family business, and very similar to how I sort of developed my work ethic and learned kind of about business in general. What what do you think that one key learning that really sticks out in your head from that time that has sort of propelled you? I tell people all the time that I went to the best business school in the world. It was sitting next to my dad for 15 years, and I learned. And it's funny. I've spoken at fancy universities and business schools, and I always tell people that you haven't really run a business until you've lied to a bank manager about money being in the bank at the end of the month or something like that. So, I'm a little older. Things are a little different nowadays. I don't think you ever speak to the bank manager anymore, but it used to be a different time. But it's like I could share so many key learnings, but this isn't about me. It's sort of about you. What is that kind of that one thing that you saw, at the time working with your dad that you're like, things could be easier, things could be better. How do we, this has changed the way I look at everything.
Yeah. I think what was really, ingrained in me is just how important your customer is. Just as an example, we would be working on like hot summer days, and specifically the nature of the work is really dirty. You have boots on, and dirt collects to your boots and mud collects to your boots. And I remember like not even thinking as a young kid, that walking on the driveway wouldn't be a problem. But my dad would call me out, and he'd be like, listen, hey, don't walk on the driveway. You're going to dirty their driveway. And he just had like so much care for his customers. And what was interesting from that was that he never had to advertise. I mean, he was someone that was always really, really busy, and his business was built on customer referrals. And that goes a long way. I think that, the trust that he built with his customers that he's had for so many years is something that has always stuck with me for sure. And then the other part of that is, understanding how difficult, a profession it is when you're out in the field and the phone is ringing off the hook. Here in Toronto, things get, pretty busy during the summer months for the irrigation industry. But, in the winter months, there's a lull. So being able to, manage that influx was incredibly challenging. It was a really administrative challenge. So you would get very busy, still have to invoice, still have to make sure that you understood what customers needed out of you. But yeah, it was a balance of two things there. It was really, how important customers are to you. If you treat them with respect, they're going to reward you with referrals and more business. And the other side of that being, how much of a challenge it is running a business, let's say from your pickup truck. So yeah, there's a lot of different key learnings, but I'd say that those two stick out the most.
Awesome. So I'm going to start. This is the easiest question you're going to get all day. And it's maybe the most confusing for some people. I put it up on the screen, but like really, what is field service management? Because I think, what I thought it was is very different than what it actually is. So I'd love to hear it from an expert. What is field service management?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot of things for many different people. I think personally, the way that I look at field service management really is having your organization communicate on all the same levels, right? What's really tough from anyone that's performing work out in the field is getting that insight, that direct customer contact information back into your office. So if you're a salesperson and you're selling, a brand new piece of equipment, and you're selling with that a service contract, it's really important that you understand the level of service that's being performed on that piece of equipment. And if you don't know that level of detail, you're really doing your customer a disservice. So really, to me, what field service management is about bringing that really important information in the customer environment back into the office so that you can make proper decisions from your business and provide the utmost customer support that you can. There's a lot of different moving parts there, of course. You're dealing with highly skilled individuals that are performing these types of services, and getting them to add more information and more detail is really difficult. So really, field service management is also meant to make that process a lot easier, bringing information back into the company so that people can execute, for their customers, but also making sure that their business is running on the correct margins. So it does touch quite a bit.
All right, great. So, staying, sort of with the same theme and really interesting, where do you see the industry going in the next, few years? Because I think, we talk about, like you could say field service management is another way of saying digital transformation for companies that have workers in the field. And digital transformation has really sort of been thrown in the face of a lot of companies that didn't have a plan based on COVID and everything that's going on and stuff like that. But would you say this is the golden time for field service management, or is it just sort of another kind of rung on the ladder? So where do you see the industry? I don't want to answer the question for you.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up a lot of great points. I mean, COVID has definitely had an impact on the way that we're delivering services to our customers, and the nature of it. But I think that it really is a trend that's accelerating, right? Like I feel that some of the efficiencies brought on by a proper field service management solution really help accelerate your business and level the playing field and level the competitiveness here. When you talk about FSM, it does touch so many different industries. And I think the common thread there is the fact that customers are demanding when it comes to the level of service that they're being provided. They're used to a very beautiful interface when it comes to interacting with their mobile phones. and that immediate nature of getting SMS notifications or being able to pull up an app and see specifically where their Uber driver is. And now they're getting that same level of expectation for also their I guess, service providers and vendors to be able to communicate on that level of real time. So I think the trend in the whole space in terms of business is really kind of following that consumer trend, right? So if I order an Uber, I want to know when that Uber is going to arrive. I want that payment process to be as simple as it is for an Uber, where I can just get in and get out, leave a 5-star rating if I want to, and then just proceed. But, layer that also with a lot of the complexity that a lot of these industries are focused on. So you have, for example, artificial intelligence that's coming into play, the whole Internet of Things, being able to monitor these different expensive equipment and say specifically not a preventative maintenance plan, but more of a preemptive maintenance plan. Understanding that if something's running hot, we can go there and schedule someone immediately and automatically. So I think with the influx of all this information and data, the Internet of Things, in combination with artificial intelligence and whatnot, there's going to be a huge sea change as far as the technology. And then on top of that, they are also addressing the skills gap. I feel that very much so. We've seen different experiments with Microsoft's HoloLens or augmented reality, where you might have a very skilled technician diagnosing a problem from the comfort of their own home and remotely tapping into someone that's on the plant floor, for example, and diagnosing a particular problem, or actually just in terms of the actual utilization of skills and resources, and not having to worry about travel. That, again, one of the trends from COVID, being able to accelerate, put someone in that position that might be a little bit junior, help them build up their skill set, and still diagnose a problem with a very experienced individual telecommuting in, but in this case, through the hands and eyes of someone else. So there's a lot of exciting trends that are definitely happening.
So you mentioned Internet of Things, and that's really interesting because I think that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I remember Internet of Things was like a buzzword. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about getting Internet of Things barbecues, and we were getting all these things, and it was going to take over the world like holograms or something like that. And it never really materialized from the consumer side. And I think a lot of people who only focus on the consumer side sort of thought that it was just a fad, but it's still a big thing that is going on the sort of the non-consumer side, industrial side. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. And so I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I think that a lot of people gave up on Internet of Things, but it's alive and well, and it's living kind of in products that we don't even see or think of.
Yeah, and I think if you kind of dig into the latest buzzword, which obviously is artificial intelligence and machine learning, I think that the Internet of Things is really complementary to that. It's with the data, it's with a lot of data that you're going to be able to do some really interesting things on the AI side. So yeah, I don't see it going away. Definitely, I think what's always challenging in these respective scenarios where there is a technology sea change is that you're dealing with so many different players, right? So there still needs to be, I would say, like a standardization of the process. Like there's been a couple of different players, whether it's Siemens or others, that are trying to kind of standardize the playing field. But if you take a software vendor like ourselves, and we're trying to say, for example, build a solution for HVAC, there's no kind of uniform language that we can say, hey, give me the stats on this particular HVAC unit, because that HVAC unit's IoT is dependent on the manufacturer. So it doesn't make sense for us to go out and develop, 13,000 different, variations of what a thermostat rating might be, because there's 13,000 vendors. So, I think that definitely there's a lot of hype. The idea and the potential for the idea is still massive, but there definitely needs to be a standardization that a lot of people can take advantage of. So I think that when you get that and then couple that with the AI, it's definitely not something that's going away.
All right, so we talked about, where you see the field service management industry going and I want to talk about also where you see your company going in the next few years. But I'm also curious, I love sort of, journeys and hearing things. So, it's like, what have you kind of learned in the last decade from running your business? Because, I keep dropping the word decade because that is an accomplishment. It is so hard to grow a business ever and to stick around for a decade and still be thriving and still, be growing and innovating and all those things is an enormous accomplishment. I don't remember the exact stats. I think it's something like, it's like 50% of businesses die in 3 years or something like that. Like 10 years and you're over 10 years is a real accomplishment. So one, I want to keep saying it because you should feel very proud about it, but also I'd love to know what you've learned kind of along the way. I'm sure there's a million little learnings. So let's figure out one or two that you think would be helpful to others.
Yeah, so there's so many things. Again, I think from my perspective, first and foremost is building a great team, and having people around you that support you is so important. I wouldn't be here today, 10 years later, if it weren't for the contributions of so many people that have been at the company. We worked with the Ryerson Co-op department quite a bit and had like a lot of different co-ops to maintain our cost structure. But there was just so many contributions from so many people, a lot of hours of hard work that without them, this wouldn't be possible. And that's truly important. And I think one of the key lessons learned is getting people that, believe in your vision and align with what you're doing is hugely important, and treating them with the respect and I guess valuing them as much as you can and being positive about that is really important. It's really important to build that cohesion in that team, and everyone wants to come to work and feel great about what they're doing and what they're accomplishing and the contributions that they're making to society. So I think that's definitely something that's really important. And then the other thing, it kind of goes back to what I said about what I learned from my dad, which is the customer is everything. We go above and beyond what we think should be reasonable when it comes to providing support for our customers. A lot of momentum behind, having like a low touch customer experience is not something that we buy on, because fundamentally, like as a software as a service business, we put a lot of emphasis on that last S. It really is service, and it really is understanding and being empathetic to every customer's needs. I mean, as long as we've been in business, so a lot of our customers have been in business for a lot longer and come to the table with a lot of great ideas and a lot of challenges that they need solved, right? And when you think about the core of a business, really, you're providing time back to the customer, and they're trading that in dollar value. So you really need to be passionate about solving that customer problem, listening to your customers, and providing that support that they would not think twice about leaving you, because why would they leave you? I mean, here's someone that they really trust. Here's someone that is always picking up the phone when they call, and really they can see the vision and the value that we provide for them. So I think those are the two key things.
So I was going to ask you this earlier, but you kind of opened the door. So I think that the customer, we'll call it customer love for lack of a better term, or customer respect. It's something that's sort of been grinded down, that isn't a top priority for a lot of companies. Some companies do it incredibly well, but it just seems like it's not the priority. And like, I know you, I know, how important it is to you and stuff like that. I'd love to hear kind of like how you would describe the relationship ServiceEcho has with its customers. Because just to say you go, above and beyond, everybody says that.
Yeah.
But, like, I know the fact that there's, you really strive to make a customized experience, and no two customers are going through the same journey because you take such care in it, and you fix problems in real time and stuff like that. So talk a little bit about that experience, and I know it's important to you because it's instilled in you, but really why do you go to the lengths you do? Because it's impressive and it makes a difference. But I want you to put in your words.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that the customer has a very unique perspective of what their problem is, and to just ignore that and to say like a one size fits solution is going to solve everything that you need, they're most likely going to go to a bigger competitor, and one where they might be able to just get kind of like that one size fits all type of experience. So again, for us, when you think about the metrics of a SaaS business, right, that long-term value, that customer relationship really pays dividends, in year 5, right? So from our approach and where we say we're unique and go above and beyond, yeah, that everyone does say that, but the way that we specifically focus on it is the selling process is a kickstart to our ability to say, hey, we're making this solution just for you. And when we're talking with the customer and understanding their problems, we're taking that information and already starting to tune our solution for what they need. And I think the secret sauce is really about how do you make that scalable. Like, I think that's why you see a lot of companies not necessarily providing that level of customer service anymore, because from a business perspective, it's hard. But we are constantly trying to iterate on that and try to improve that process where we're seeing the pattern, and we're trying to make this experience transition from a sales process to the onboarding to the discovery, having them really available every step of the way, and communicating with them in a very agile approach to say, yeah, the core foundation is our software product that we're building, but we're making this tuned to you. And that includes like the ability to have documents exactly the way they want. We don't want people kind of learning how to actually go out and build their own forms or build their processes. We want to guide them along that entire process. Or as an example, even just getting the data and the information set up correctly really is a great learning experience, not only for the customer, but for us as well, right? And again, I think that, from the selling process down to the actual delivery, investing that, money at the beginning really builds a relationship, builds that trust that, they may find, a competitor that they need to switch to or what have you. But when they think about all the effort and the experience that they had with us from the very beginning, it makes that decision a lot harder for them, and effectively makes our application stickier. It provides that experience, that learning, that sharing. And I always say this with our customers: it's definitely something where, for us, their success will translate to our success. It's the old adage that, if you want to be successful, you have to surround yourself with, people that are successful as well. And, making our passion and our focus on helping that customer grow their business is only going to pay dividends down the road when they grow and maybe acquire more licenses or give us more work. So definitely, from our perspective, as far as the relationship with ServiceEcho and their customers, so we want to be as responsive as possible. We want to guide them along the way. We want to really, really listen to them, be empathetic, to any challenges that they have. And again, from experience, really, they know their business very well. And if there is an issue with the software, it's not their fault. It's our fault. It's something that, we're either missing a feature or we're missing some sort of functionality that we can improve and scale down the road. So
you mentioned features and improvement and all sorts of things. We've been talking for almost 30 minutes now, and you haven't actually described, and it's because I haven't asked you, so I'm going to get you to do that now. You haven't actually described what ServiceEcho is. So let's paint a picture for people. Is it web-based? Is it mobile-based? What are some of the features? How would people use it? Just, I don't want you to do a demo, but in kind of, if you were meeting somebody at a cocktail party and they said, "What do you do for a living?" You tell them, and they go, "Oh, what's that?" How would you actually describe the the product of ServiceEcho, not the company?
Yeah, so the product is pretty simple actually when you boil it down. We equip any remote field service team with a very powerful native mobile application that they can track their time, their inventory, effectively the services that they perform, take pictures, all in a really neat, very contained mobile application that's very responsive, works offline. And the power to that is on the back end, we've built our platform on the Salesforce.com foundation. So what's very powerful from that respect is we're able to take all of that very clear and information, easy to use mobile application data and drive the business from the Salesforce end. So whether that's generating invoices or inventory reports or timesheets, integrating with accounting software or generating payroll, really all the light, easy to use field service mobile application data drives a whole business process in the back end. And the word service echo kind of relates to the fact that we're echoing what people are providing service for out in the field back into the office, right? And I think that's kind of where the name comes from. So effectively, I'm probably failing the elevator pitch test, but definitely something that we try to provide a very easy to use experience for the field tech, bringing all that information in so that the business process can run really efficiently.
Okay, so staying on the same sort of idea, um, how have some of the um, how have some of the people who use ServiceEcho, how have some of their businesses, their business processes improved, since implementing ServiceEcho or just like a field service management platform in general?
Yeah. So I'll answer that by telling this great story. So one of our initial customers, one of our first customers, DJ Rain, they had a service dispatcher, service manager in the office, and she was like a great thinker, right? And had been running the business like from the 80s. So you can just imagine like the evolution of their business over the years. And when we got there, they had this like really elaborate color coding system. They had all these cue cards, and each cue card represented a color for a specific region. So effectively, what they would do is they would, let's say, get a new customer, and then they would be like, "Oh, that's pink. They're in Mississauga. They're gonna get a pink card." And in the office, they had this massive, basically, I guess, slotted, wall mount where they would put the cards in, and it would be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They would take the cards, collect the cards, put the cards into the slots. And what's amazing is that was solving a real problem for them. They were, routing before the use of a computer at all, right? And ultimately, I mean, as great as the evolution was and innovation was in the 80s, obviously when we came to them and we showed them our drag and drop calendar that was color coded based off of the region, they were blown away. I mean, you mean I don't have to write customer information on cards anymore? I don't have to organize all these different cards in the proper format so I can find them. It's just amazing to me, like the evolution that they took, going from this really paper-based, paper-intensive process into one that they can easily just use a available anywhere, internet-based application on built on Salesforce that had all their customer data, drag and drop, create work orders, and route it effectively. So it's just amazing how much productivity that we added there in that example.
Oh, that's great. So, like any company, especially someone who's been around for as long as you have and seen all the different changes in technology and changes in, customer adoption to new platforms and things like that. What are some of the challenges you see that you have to face, in the next little while, and what are some of the challenges you've overcome in the past?
So that's a great question. I think, you know, one of the biggest challenges really is keeping up with the momentum of technology. As a company that's bootstrapped and competing against a lot of different players, you're always looking for that innovation cycle and not sacrificing your existing customer experience. So we're always trying to innovate. We're always trying to be on that tip. So how do you balance that without jeopardizing any existing customer functionality, for example? So I think that from a perspective of ServiceEcho as a field service management provider, it's really how do you toe that line, that edge, where you're constantly innovating, but you're bringing your existing customer base with you, and also finding new businesses to work with. The other challenge is definitely from a marketing and sales and branding and maturing as a company. Let's say I think that. I'm passionate about technology. I'm passionate about solving the problem, but you still have to run a business, right? You still have to maintain that team and grow the business the right way. So it's still something that I'm learning every single day and trying to get better at. From a more general sense, in terms of field service management and as a solution provider, the other competing factor is that you are dealing with companies that are entering in your space, right? So for example, in our case, Salesforce released a field service management solution on their platform as well after ours. And we would say that ours is simpler and better. But at the end of the day, that validates the market, but it's still something that, a lot of players realize the value of that customer experience, but not so much only just from a CRM perspective, but also understanding that it's going to be those touch points that are really going to win the day. So there's a lot to be said about that as well in terms of the space and the volume of the customers. We think that we're unique and crafted out our own specific niche area and industry, but it's definitely something to be aware of.
Okay, and how has remote work changed the way field service management operates?
Yeah, so I think it really is, that question kind of just relates to the momentum that we're already seeing with cloud computing and mobile computing. So effectively, because field service addresses remote work staff, they're actually pretty well equipped for this kind of change of remote work. But a lot of existing previous solutions had an on-premise office version and then had the extension out into the office. So, from a remote work perspective, I think one of the changes that is definitely taking shape is that a lot more providers are cloud-oriented, internet-based, so that you can really work from anywhere. So I think that that's just a trend that is continuing to accelerate. So from the aspect of remote work, really it's built for that, and I think that it's well positioned to be successful there.
Cool. So you've answered this. You've answered this in sort of breadcrumbs in a couple different questions, but let's get it living in one place and one clear understanding. So what makes ServiceEcho different from some of the competition?
Yeah, I would say definitely our native mobile application is something that's really simple and easy to use. We made it specifically for the iOS and Android platforms, and it's really feature rich, and it takes advantage of a lot of the capabilities that only native mobile technology can give you. So I think that is something that really sets us apart. We take pride on making that whole experience as simple and easy to use as possible. Again, keeping the story alive with my dad. I'm just envisioning whenever we're adding a new feature, something that can a 6-year-old man use this and be effective with it to be able to manage his day-to-day. Would it be a nuisance, or is it something that's easy to use? So I would definitely say that that's something that sets us apart from our competitors. And then that whole kind of mobile first approach and strategy to be simple is really difficult to maintain across the board, but it's something that we really pride ourselves on as well. Is because we're providing that level of customer service that we discussed earlier, we need a solution that is really simple and easy to configure, and that, the results speak for themselves when it comes to the actual office user. So when we talked about, for example, our drag and drop calendar, really making that whole experience as simple and seamless as possible. I know using a couple of buzzwords there, but it is really important to like have, the information that's on the mobile application, not something that has to be keyed in all the time, right? So if an office user or a service dispatcher is creating a new appointment, that's something that all the data is going to be available in 1 click, 2 clicks, or 3 clicks. So, again, it's really that simplicity across the board that I think differentiates us from others, and as well, like our mobile application.
All right, so you opened the door for this question.
Okay.
How often do you add new features to the application?
Hourly? Is that too much? We're really rapid when it comes to our development cycle. So effectively, this may be a little bit different than other organizations, but we're always constantly trying to improve, right? So because we're close to the customer and we're figuring out things that they need, and we're approaching it from, if this customer is asking for this, potentially another customer is asking for this as well, we try to release something as quickly as possible, right? And it depends on the feature, it depends on the functionality. Obviously, we have certain practices in place, but I would say that there's something new in the app every week.
That's really impressive. So you really do, going back to your relationship with your customer, what I read from what you just said, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that the customer is leading your product roadmap, but you're certainly open to being influenced or listening and adapting and adjusting. Is that a fair sort of comment?
Definitely. So, I'll tell a little story here. I was really lucky, back in 2010 to attend the Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple, and I got to see Steve Jobs speak when he was releasing the iPad 2, I believe it was, and he had this one slide where it was like, basically discussing innovation and technology. And he showed this road sign, and it was the intersection, and I'm going to mess this up for sure. It was the intersection of technology and liberal arts, right? And his whole message really is, it's the humanities and the technology together that really build sea change within technology or within the space. So if you're really passionate about the customer experience and empathetic to that customer experience, and you marry that with the technology, you're going to build something fantastic. You're going to build something great. So I want to kind of make sure that I answer your question here, but for me, I think it's really important that to build great technology products, you need the customer helping you direct your vision, and it's their experiences out in the field that are really going to help you build something great. So we don't shy from that. I think there's the Henry Ford quote too, right, where he discusses, if I asked people what they wanted, they would tell me that they wanted a faster horse. And what I find is, like, there's a lot of momentum in the technologists that kind of use that quote and abuse that quote to the fact that they feel that, by changing everything and making sure that they innovate and really break the mold, that they're providing a service for society. But times have changed. Customers are so much more sophisticated, and that's kudos to all the great technology that we've been delivering. Like, they're learning, how easy it is to use Ritual, for example, to order lunch, or they're comfortable with that experience. So they're going to take that, and they're much more sophisticated now to be able to help you build a great product. So that's why we really do.
Do you know the other famous Henry Ford quote? People can have their car in any color they want as long as it's black.
There you go. I mean, that definitely probably would work in the early 1900s, but I can imagine taking that back to any of my customers,
Yeah.
how angry they would be right now. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
change for sure.
All right, so this should be an easy question, but I'm not sure if it really is, because this is a product that touches so many industries and so many different departments, and really, if a company allowed it to be, it could run the entire back office of of a medium-sized company. But I'm going to ask you anyways, like, who is ServiceEcho for?
Um, yeah, it really should be an easy answer. And I think, from a business perspective, it comes down to who are you adding value to, right? And when I answer that question, it comes into different phases. So first, I start off with the person doing the actual work, the skilled labor. They have, a really challenging work environment. A lot of them, and I'm not going to talk about a specific industry, but a lot of them are going into remote areas with very little internet connection and very little support. Just them, a truck, some tools, and fixing something. And when you think about how we're supporting them, we're really supporting them by connecting them into the office, by helping them share their experience so that the business can run as great as it can. So we provide value to them because their work is rewarded, their value is attributed, and effectively what they're doing is shared back to the office. As a result of that, obviously there is the entire office structure, whether, depending on the size of the organization, there's different roles and responsibilities. But from the owner all the way down to the service manager and dispatcher, we're providing value because, getting that information from a remote area wasn't all that easy years ago, right? Without, the advent of mobile technology and computing. The fact that we're bringing this information back in real time or near real time really helps them run their business at the pace of today. And things are moving so quickly these days as far as business is concerned. So specifically, when we look at the back office, there's a lot of value there. And then ultimately, their customers also are provided value, right? Again, not only is the expectation from our business customers higher, but the actual their customers, the people that they deliver services for, are also demanding, emails and notifications of when a service person is on their way, or a report stating, give me a rundown of everything that you've done when you were here, or I want to be invoiced promptly. I want an easy way to pay my invoice. All that information, if you put it that weight on every individual small business or medium-sized business to perform that, it's a heavy toll. It's a technology investment. It's not that they have a big IT staff. So the value that we're providing is also to the customer themselves, our customers, because now they're getting that experience. They're being able to really understand the value that our customers bring to them. So really, it's all for those three main categories, I would say.
Oh, that's great. So, one of the things that goes into the decision for bringing a new tool on in a company is really how much work is it going to be to get it implemented? How hard is it going to be to integrate it into our current tools and things like that? Onboarding is so important, and so talk a little bit about how do you guys make the onboarding experience a positive one, and why is it so important to you that onboarding is done properly?
Yeah. So there's a lot to that question for sure, and I think it starts off, first and foremost with the people that you place in those roles. I'm really lucky to have a couple of different individuals here. Just a shout out to Miranda, who's our onboarding wizard, I would say, that provides that patience and customer experience, really helping them understand that we're here for you. Right? We're here to make sure that your experience is as good as it can be. we have definitely a process that we follow where it comes to like as I was saying before, the sales process, we're already gathering, the information and the questions to make sure that we understand what it is that the customer wants. So it starts there. And then as far as the onboarding process is concerned, it's taking that information, following a very discrete step of actions. We definitely abide by, and it's such common practice now probably, but an agile approach. We're not under the belief in any way that we're going to get this complete requirements document at the very beginning, go off for a month, come back, and oh look, everything works perfect. So we really do believe in an agile approach, constantly making sure that there's improvements that they can see within obviously a test environment that they can test with, and then start training the trainer along the way and making sure that they're buying into the decisions that we're making and are a key voice in that whole process. So when it comes to actually delivering it to the rest of the team, we've already created champions within the organization that understand why we did things the way that we did. And it's really not ever, an us versus them mentality. It's always a direct relationship. Like we're coming to the decision together in order to deliver this. So a couple of key things there.
Okay, and just keep hitting you with the hardball questions. ServiceEcho has been a longtime partner with Salesforce, Google Cloud, more recently, I believe, Intuit. How do these partnerships, impact the customer experience, and why is it important to the business to have these large scale partnerships?
Yeah, so we started off from ground zero, right? We bootstrapped the company, and I really believe in building on the shoulders of giants and adding value. And one is that there is definitely a pace to innovation when you do tie yourself to some great organizations like Google, Salesforce, Intuit. But the other part of it too is that their large customer base, it has already made the investment in that technology, and really what we're trying to do is help them really improve their return on investment there, and they respect and value that. So for us, selecting those partnerships was one in which we feel that together we're better, right? Together we can definitely leverage existing tool sets that they provide that would make us better, but also we would be able to fill certain gaps and simplify things for our customers that they couldn't provide on the scale that we provide. So really to us, like, partnerships are incredibly important. We hope to grow them again every day. And it comes back to that saying really about, like, if we're able to make them successful, they're also making us successful by osmosis, I would say.
Okay. This is oops, wrong thing. So let me just type this out. How does, like, your mission and values and their trust, commitment to customers, continuous improvement? So first of all, talk a little bit about the values of ServiceEcho and how do they align with the goals for the company, and why are they important to have values?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important to have values, just to really share the message across the organization. It's hard. Like I'm telling you, like, one thing is you create certain values. It's a service. You write them down on a piece of paper, but day in and day out, when you're faced with the challenges that come at you, really sticking to those values is where it really is. I guess it comes to fruition, right? So when we talk about the values that you have listed there, trust, commitment to customers, and continuous improvement, I think they're no-brainers, right? Without a trust relationship with your customer, it's going to get toxic. And it works both ways, right? Like, if we are working with a customer that we don't trust, it's very difficult to wake up every day and do the best that you can for them. So trust is a foundational thing, not only in life, but also in business. And the commitment to our customers, we talked a lot about this on the podcast. I just really think it goes a long way, and really that intersection of humanities and technology, understanding that you're building something for their experience, and they can go anywhere. There's like all kinds of different choices. So they've shown a commitment to you, and you definitely need to accelerate that and value that, and make sure that you are as committed to them as they are to you. And we are in the world of technology, and technology, to me, like one of the great values in general for technology, one of the great inspiring things about technology, and why I've been so passionate and dedicated my career to it, is that at its core, it's all about improving the world, right? All about, and it's going to sound so cheesy, so I can tell you're going to come with a rebuttal right now, but it really is like, I'm not talking about some cutthroat companies, not to name a few social media ones, but when you detach yourself from advertising spend and advertising dollars, I think technology and people that are really passionate about it are always, have this very optimistic view of society, that it doesn't matter what problem we face, if it's climate change or social injustice, it's always something that we can provide a solution with, and we're problem solvers. And that comes through that continuous improvement. So as an organization in ServiceEcho, I think those three values really speak to where we want to take the platform, and be able to build, an organization that people trust, an organization that knows that we're committed to their success, because we know that their success is going to translate to our success, and that we're not going to be stale, right? We're going to be an innovative company that's always going to try to push the envelope and make their businesses better, by continuing to evolve and solve problems.
All right. So speaking about, relationships and pushing, everything forward and stuff like that, can you share a customer story or experience that really just nails what ServiceEcho is all about, and sort of everything you've spoken about? You did give that example earlier of DJ Rain, but there's got to be a bunch of them that just, if again, going back to the elevator pitch, the cocktail party sort of analogy, if somebody were to say, turn to a stranger and say, I had this really great experience with this company, what would be a story like that?
Sure. So I told one before, but I'll tell a different one. We recently had a customer that got acquired by a multinational, huge organization. And, obviously with that enterprise mentality, when you talk about field service management, typically they have their own solution. And in our example, we had this like really small profitable center that was acquired by them, that was using our technology, and they had been using our technology for forever, I believe over 6 years. And always would go above and beyond. They were based in Boston. So Boston's a great city, great lobster rolls if you've ever been. So I would, take a porter flight. I'm based in Toronto, so I would take a porter flight over there every once in a while, and make sure that I was in their office to understand some of the challenges that they might have been facing, or how we can improve. And there's like simple things, like just being able to, they had a very specific Salesforce functionality that they were struggling with. So they would have this whole product list, and every once in a while they would increase the value of the product list. And to be honest, it's something that like my entire team was busy to do, and it wasn't related to our product in any way, but I would do it for them. I would do it on a Saturday. I would download their list, update their prices, put it into their environment so that they had it. And shortly after they got acquired, they let me know, they're like, Jason, the parent company wants us to kind of go to their field service management solution. And it might be something where we have to switch off of ServiceEcho eventually. And recently, just recently, they let me know, they're like, Jason, you know what? We're going to renew for another year. I mean, we've seen the other version, and, we love you. We love like the support that you give us, and how quick to respond you are, and what gaps you actually fill that this solution doesn't do for us. And because of that effort, because of that listening, because of those years of really being responsive and being around for them, they valued the relationship and are renewing, even though head office is telling them that they should use something else. So it's experiences like that really validate what we're doing and the hard work that we put in. And I hope to tell like many more stories like that for sure.
No, that's really cool. So I know we're kind of jumping all over the place. That's a sign of a good interviewer. But getting back to the core product, because we've talked a lot about the amazing sort of peripheral things, the customer service, and I wouldn't even say they're peripheral because they are part of the core DNA of the company. But really, like, so people understand again, and what are some of the key features of ServiceEcho? There's so many things that ServiceEcho solves for a company, but what are some of the main ones?
Sure. So one of the main ones is that we help our customers get paid a lot quicker. Because we have the information that is being imported into the back office solution in near real time, invoices can be generated accurately, efficiently, and very quickly. So I think that's probably increasing the cash velocity is one of the most important things. The second important thing would be around scheduling. Understanding what your commitments are in terms of your existing contracts and maybe service calls, and being very responsive to manage a schedule that doesn't have necessarily people driving all around the city to perform services, but keeping them organized, but still maintaining that customer attentiveness that you need in order to make sure that you're scheduling people the right way. Those are some of the two key features, and then it grows from there, right? So customer reporting, understanding what you sold versus what you actually have done, and being able to understand what is the value of this contract. So if I'm providing a service and I've quoted it for this much and I sold it to the customer for this much, what did it actually cost me when I factor in travel, when I factor in the material and time that was spent there, when I factor in the callbacks that might have happened. So being able to really analyze the value of those contracts and understand that maybe this particular service needs to be increased in value, and thereby increasing your profitability. So those are, I would say, three of the key major features that people get value out of. When you talk about other aspects, obviously we tie into inventory and payroll as a result of all of this. So organizing your entire inventory stock, knowing what parts you might need to order in advance, and being able to do payroll without having to deal with timesheets is something that a lot of our customers love as well.
So, you've mentioned a couple times that ServiceEcho makes life easier for field workers and management and dispatchers and stuff like that. I'd love you to just elaborate a little bit longer on that, and I'd also love to know a little bit about the safety side of things, because there are a lot of inherent sort of safety things that are baked into ServiceEcho. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So as far as the safety element, I'll address that quite clearly. With the mobile application, obviously the safety process is something that we can enforce, right? So typically, when you think about safety and you think about the types of field service environments that might be dangerous, it's important for that person that is deployed on site to follow a very specific checklist. So creating that checklist for us is really easy and dynamic. We can easily create a process right within the mobile application that upon arrival, the technician would need to fill out and make sure that the environment that they're working in meets all the safety conditions. Another key part of that is auditing that safety process, right? So because the mobile application is equipped with the ability to take pictures, you're creating an audit of that specific environment, showing that there's proof from a perspective of safety that I met these particular conditions, and here's the photo evidence of that. And a lot of the smaller businesses in the field, for example, in order for them to win contracts like government contracts or larger building contracts, they have to provide the safety record. So when you think about that from a business perspective, here's this extra overhead that I need to do in order to make sure that, and it's not overhead in a bad way, it's definitely necessary. We want to make sure that everything's safe for the people that are working there. But it's an overhead that is not necessarily factored into the cost because it requires all this extra administrative work to put the reports together. So in that specific scenario, if you're able to kind of delegate the responsibility, put it in the hands of the person that's providing the work in a nice, easy to use form on the mobile application, and then automatically generate the reports on the back end, that's something that reduces that cost of providing the safest environment for your individuals, but also not only reducing the overhead in terms of administrative responsibility, but also measuring and analyzing how the safety process can be improved. And when an incident may occur, going back and really taking a look at was the safety process followed. So that's a perspective of value from safety orientation. But when we talk about making life easier for the field worker, for example, having something like a mobile phone is another tool in their toolbox, right? It's easy to carry around. It's not a huge tablet. It's not a huge laptop. So when you need to pull up that manual, if all the information is contained within the app, they don't have to fumble around and look for that drawing that might be 2 floors up in foreman's office and in a tube of paper, right? They have the information in their pocket right then and there, and it's organized and clear. Or, it's just something as simple as turn-by-turn directions to where they need to go. We have in the application, as an example, a street view that shows the addresses, actual street view on the Google Maps side of things. So visually, they're able to look at their work orders for the day and just quickly and easily recognize, oh yeah, I know that customer because I recognize that street view saying that, I don't even have to think about where I need to go, or maybe I might organize my day to be a little bit more efficient for me. So it's really that power of having everything at your fingertips, whether it be security, inventory, tracking your time, or materials that will help them perform their job more effectively. And then on the back end, when it comes to the management side of things, really they're looking at it from a bird's eye view. So how do you collect all this information if someone's not keying it in, right? And in previous worlds where there wasn't a technology in place, you needed someone, or you hired someone to take these sheets of paper, whether it was timesheets or if it was like work order sheets, read this illegible handwriting in some cases, and to no fault of their own. I mean, these techs are going out from job to job to job, so they're busy. They were quickly filling out these forms, different kind of capacities and skill sets, and some more detailed, some less verbose than others. So the only way that someone from a bird eye view, like a manager, could see all of that if someone keyed that all in. So we're skipping that step. We're skipping that administrative step, thereby, providing detailed reports quickly and easily for someone to digest that's really tuned to their business. And then in the dispatch element, they're faced quite often with customers asking, hey, where is this tech? Or when can I schedule an appointment? Or, is this something has just happened? I need someone here really quickly. Well, equipping the field workers with a device, that information is available to the dispatcher without her broadcasting a message to everyone and saying, hey, who's close to this address, or who's close to this place, or who's almost done their work. That real-time sync allows them to say, okay, I know exactly who needs to go there. I know exactly who was there before. I know exactly the information needed in order to do a job. I know that John doesn't have this part, but Mary does. So I'm going to send Mary to this call. So that insight without having to broadcast a message and contact and call or SMS a bunch of different people in a very disjointed communication form really helps improve the dispatcher's life.
Awesome. Okay. Here's a fun question, or could be fun. I don't know.
They're all fun.
They're all fun. Good. What has changed in the product since the earlier versions of ServiceEcho? I imagine it originally started on an abacus and you grew from there. But what did some of the early versions look like?
So it wasn't an abacus, but it was pretty close. It was called the Playbook, or I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's from this Canadian company called RIM at the time. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. So there's been a lot of evolution. I think one of the biggest ones was when we first started the app development. It did start on the BlackBerry. We used something called WebKit. So not to get too technical, but we were listed in the BlackBerry App Store, and we are trying to develop a solution for that. So that was interesting because I mean, some people might have predicted it, but it was definitely a sharp turn in the mobile industry. And BlackBerry was such a key player, and to see Android come out from nowhere pretty much and take that kind of universal approach and see iOS and their continued success, it was pretty interesting. Like, we definitely need to make the pivot away from developing on the BlackBerry. That was a key thing. And then, the evolution of Salesforce over the years really has impacted our application as well. They've gone through a lot of different changes, whether it be the reporting side or even going from Classic Edition to Lightning. I think that was something that definitely changed. And then, I guess the evolution as well from earlier product versions, we just learned a lot more, and we added as time went on. We added much more functionality when it came to inventory management. We added much more functionality when it came to actually managing timesheets and producing those reports. But ultimately, the big key one is really understanding the value of not just providing a field service management solution for service, but that it's closely coupled with sales. Meaning that we have a whole quoting module based within Salesforce and independently, that if you're quoting something like a contract, that can very easily translate to work that you need to schedule, and being able to compare that. So that was definitely a big evolution in the product as well.
Okay, so two more questions. Then I'm going to give you your day back. We've been chatting for over an hour, but this has been really great and interesting. I'm curious, what do people get wrong mostly about field service management platforms?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is the pushback that we often get is that the big brother element. Like, oh, I don't necessarily want my text to be tracked or have that concept of being tracked. And I definitely would say that that's something that people get wrong, is that it's not about micromanaging your employees. It really is about empowering them with another tool that's going to help them do their job really effectively. And to that point, there is definitely a responsibility as an employer to ensure the safety of your staff, to know their whereabouts, to know where they are while they are performing services and providing great benefits to your organization. That element of safety that we talked about before, as well as the ability to understand that, hey, if anything happens and we need to notify this individual, that I can notify them really quickly. So that nature of and it's a sentiment like in technology now where I have this kind of analogy, and I've heard this quite a few times, but a lot of the big technology players have really positioned technology as being the new oil industry, right? Like that they're out for capturing all our information and spying on us. And I think that sentiment kind of carries over sometimes into the field service management world. But really, it's not about that. It's, it's so hard to run a services business, and especially like the different elements that we talked about that we try to solve, where people are, deployed remotely, and they're just, independent and trying to do the best that they can. So being able to get over that hump of understanding that this is not about micromanaging, this is not about, spying on you in any way, but this is about, giving you the tools that you need to effectively do your business. And then on top of that, giving the owner or the business managers the details that they need to build a really strong business, right? You can't improve what you don't measure. And being able to like focus on that, the data part, is really where I think a lot of FSM platforms don't focus enough on. It's about, okay, transacting and this information, but the devil really is in those details, and being able to get reports that tell you that, let's just take an example. If I'm an HVAC company and I keep on replacing the same part in the same unit, maybe we shouldn't be using that unit anymore. And you're only going to get that information if you really track the inventory that you're putting in there. And you're only going to get that if the person using the mobile application, in our case, is feeding the information back. So I think it goes much, much beyond just the location tracking.
Yeah, no, that's really great. So we've talked a lot about how you got to where you are, and we've looked backwards. Where, what can we expect from the next 10 years for ServiceEcho?
Yeah, we just want to continue, doing the best we can and really pushing the envelope as far as being leaders in the space for FSM. We really want to innovate when it comes to all the great technologies that are out there, really inspired by, some of the different consumer-based applications and use cases that you see on a daily basis. I don't know if we're going to do any non-fungible tokens anytime soon, but it is definitely something that's pretty interesting. And yeah, we always want to push that envelope. We always want to make sure that we are really innovating when it comes to the product. But on top of that, we hope that I have many more customer success stories, and that all of our customers that we're working with today are 10 times bigger than they are today. Because if they are, we know that we've done our job and we've made them successful. And by that, we're going to get other, business, and hopefully grow and be a successful business as well, for many years to come.
Awesome. Tell people how to get in touch with you. Tell people how to, find out more information about ServiceEcho. And I also want to know, out of all the albums over your shoulder, which one is your favorite right now? So this is your chance to publicly, shamefully plug everything that people should know about ServiceEcho and how to get more information.
Yeah, so follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram, or any other social media platform that you might use, Facebook as well. You can find us by keying in ServiceEcho as the keyword there. I would definitely recommend that. You can also go to our website, serviceecho.com, to reach out to us. And feel free to send me an email if you are listening to this and want to get in touch. My email is jason@serviceecho.com, and I'll be sure to respond to you as quickly as possible. And about the records, I mean, these are some classics. It's really hard to pick a favorite. They all kind of have a story behind them. I think, quite honestly, just like looking at the wall, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye is just such a epic classic album that is timeless, and hard to not put that up there. But I mean, they're all great. The Marcos Valle one is also pretty phenomenal too. So if you get a chance, definitely Spotify it or listen to it on Apple Music.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jason. This has been really great.
I appreciate your time as well, Saul. Thanks so much.